A vital decision for public safety in Baltimore. We're asking city council members if the acting police commissioner is the right fit to protect you. Plus, pressure building on state lawmakers to do something about the youth crime crisis.
A mistake was made. Go back immediately, look at the legislation, and let's correct it.
Our team continues to demand answers from your elected leaders. Then, hundreds of thousands of your tax dollars are misspent. How the city plans to get that money back.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 4.
Fox 45 continues our coverage on the crime crisis across Maryland. We're pressing lawmakers for answers about the spike in youth violence. Fox 45 asks why they're waiting to act when local law enforcement says they need help now.
Car thefts continue to skyrocket. We hear from one victim who says she's being punished for what criminals did after taking her car.
Baltimore's one step closer to naming a new top cop. We examined the obstacles in Richard Worley's confirmation. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. We have team coverage tonight, starting with the latest in Richard Worley's confirmation process.
Fox 45's Alexa Ashwell has the latest on the City Council's upcoming decision. Alexa?
Yes, Kai, Mary, in just 1 week, members of Baltimore City Council will gather here inside City Hall. This vote, political experts say, could not only impact public safety here in Baltimore, but political futures as well. The fate of acting Baltimore Police Commissioner Richard Worley in the hands of Baltimore City Council.
I think for the most part, these nominations are going to get through.
Political analyst John Dede predicting how the remaining members of Baltimore City Council will vote after Council's Oversight Committee last week unanimously approved Worley's nomination. We sent these questions last Friday asking, do you intend to approve Worley's nomination? Did the handling of Brooklyn Day and the response to the mass shooting give you pause? Do you think Worley is the best person to tackle some of Baltimore's top public safety concerns, including juvenile crime and gun violence? How so? Questions that have gone ignored.
There's no political benefit for coming out against something like this.
But the pick, Dede says, could ultimately go against Scott as we enter an election year, and public safety remains a top concern among voters.
Now the mayor has his people in these jobs. He inherited the others. Now he has his people in, which means there, in many ways, there's more accountability for the mayor's office on stuff because he has selected these individuals as the new police and fire chief.
During last week's hearing, some members of the public did speak out against Worley's nomination.
It's not that we don't trust him. We don't trust you.
And the acting commissioner wasn't confirmed by committee members without question.
I've raised several concerns to you about the response times.
Worley responding to that, as well as concerns about juvenile crime.
We have to hold the young people accountable.
And critical mistakes made during Brooklyn Day that ended in a deadly mass shooting back in July, about 3 weeks after he was named acting commissioner.
My top priority now, Brooklyn was a huge incident. We have to continue to address the shortcomings there and make sure it doesn't happen again. But my biggest thing is community policing.
The thing they have to be on top of is no reruns of what happened in Brooklyn. They can't have stuff like that. They also have to focus more on this youth crime situation to get that better under control.
And again, Kai and Mary, we sent those questions this past Friday and again today, and still yet we have not received a response from any of those members of Baltimore City Council. Why Dede believes they're staying silent at 5. Reporting live outside City Hall, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
We have to increase our car stops. We have to look for the vehicles that look suspicious, check the tags to see if it's a stolen car. All those different things, and be more proactive as we drive through the neighborhoods to pay attention to try to eliminate a stolen auto before it actually happens.
Well, during his confirmation hearing, Worley stressed attacking the city's car theft problem will be a top priority if he is confirmed. This year, close to 8,000 cars have been stolen in Baltimore. The main targets, Hyundais and Kias. Between the 9th and the 16th of this month, 292 cars were taken. That's more than 41 thefts a day.
They shouldn't make me a victim 2 and 3 times. I was a victim once with my car being stolen. I was a victim with the insurance company, and I was a victim with the city of Baltimore.
Those powerful words from a Baltimore County woman. She describes headaches and further victimization after her car was stolen last month. Fox 45's Amy Simpson is live tonight and shares the story of one of thousands of car theft victims. Amy?
Yes, so this Rosedale woman tells me her car was taken in broad daylight last month from outside of her home, but that was just the beginning of the ordeal that she told me about today. Cindy Garofalo says that on top of dealing with insurance hurdles and rental car logistics, she tried for weeks to get her car out of Baltimore City impound once it was recovered. Eventually, 2 speeding tickets came in the mail. The roadside cameras in Baltimore City showing her baby blue Hyundai Sonata clear as day. But the timestamps for those 2 infractions were both within hours of when her car was taken back on August 11th.
They said, well, it would probably happen while it was stolen. They told me that. And I said, well, why should I have to pay for it? They said, well, we're not going to release your car unless you pay the 2 speeding tickets.
Well, Garofalo tells me she did pay those 2 $40 fines and finally got her car out of impound after about a month. And about a week ago, she says she got keys for a new Nissan sedan, which is her new ride. But now she says she has to, quote, jump through hoops to prove to the city her car was stolen and get those $80 back. Now, today we did ask Baltimore City's Department of Transportation why victims of car theft are being asked to pay for infractions that occurred while their car was stolen. And today, that question was not even acknowledged. Reporting live in Baltimore, Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Amy, thank you. Hopefully they get back to you with some answers, because that's insult to injury for sure. In addition to the cost for the people getting their cars stolen, the broader spike in car thefts is threatening to hurt really everyone in Baltimore. Fox 45's Megan Gillen spoke with a taxpayer advocate about the impact this could have on Baltimore's economy.
Baltimore is seeing an unprecedented number of car thefts this year, thefts that are now taking an emotional and financial toll on the city. Taxpayer watchdog David Williams weighing in on the economic impact this is having on you.
Obviously, public safety is the #1 concern, but this is tied to the economy. Public safety is always tied to the economy, and the same is happening in Baltimore City right now. So you have thousands of car thefts in this city this year, and that's going to mean an increase in premiums for car insurance for consumers. And these consumers are going to have to get another car, so they may have to shell out more money for that. So that's another thing. But also businesses. I think businesses are really going to suffer from this, because what's going to happen is people are leaving the city. People aren't going to be coming into the city to go to the businesses because they're afraid of the car thefts and the carjacking.
Well, Williams went on to talk about the taxpayer dollars being spent for city programs to try and keep people safe. You can watch this entire interview on foxbaltimore.com. I'm Megan Gillen, Fox 45 News.
The Baltimore County Police Department is trying to help protect you and your cars. Kias and Hyundais have been targeted more than any other vehicles during this year's spike in car thefts due to a design flaw. On October 7th, Baltimore County Police will give out free steering wheel locks and help owners upgrade their security software. For more information on that event, head to foxbaltimore.com.
And if you have a stolen car story or know someone who's been impacted by the spike in auto thefts, we want to hear about it. Scan that QR code on your screen, tell us what happened, or send us an email to news@foxbaltimore.com.
The race for mayor of Baltimore heats up. Fox 45 News asked the top candidates to participate in a series of town halls. The battle for the mayor's office could be a race between Mayor Brandon Scott and former Mayor Sheila Dixon. Fox 45 News has reached out to both of those candidates and invited them to participate in multiple bi-weekly town halls. So far, we haven't heard back from Dixon or current Mayor Scott. Now, we'll keep you updated on their responses.
Continuing coverage now on the youth crime crisis with a string of juvenile crime across Anne Arundel County. Police say 15 juveniles committed a number of crimes throughout the county, including carjackings, car thefts, and a robbery at gunpoint. 6 of the teenagers were arrested at one time outside of a Glen Burnie Chuck E. Cheese after police say they hit another car in a stolen vehicle and robbed a sporting goods store. Now, those teenagers are all old enough to be charged and prosecuted under state law, but we have seen a number of cases recently where young people accused in crimes are too young to be charged. There are growing calls for lawmakers to change that.
A mistake was made. Go back immediately, look at the legislation, and let's correct it. We'll work with you to correct it.
Well, Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost joins us live now with the latest push for answers from elected leaders. Mackenzie.
Yeah, Mary, we continue to hear some of the same thing from elected leaders, police, prosecutors from all over the state of Maryland. They argue that the current juvenile justice system makes it harder for them to hold some of the youngest offenders accountable and ensure that they face consequences for their actions. Now we're inviting Senate President Bill Ferguson and House Speaker Adrian Jones to participate in a town hall with Fox 45 News to talk about some of these concerns. We know a House committee held a hearing earlier this month discussing the juvenile justice laws, and there is another hearing scheduled for November, but some critics argue these elected leaders are not acting quick enough to address the problem.
If you don't work on this immediately and you say we're going to look at it in January and we're going to ask the governor to sign it in April, May, or June, and it's effective in July or maybe October, the wake of victims is going to be tremendous.
And Mackenzie, have either legislative leader committed to participating in our town hall?
So far, we don't have any commitments for that conversation to take place, but we're willing to schedule one if either leader does agree to do so. Now, we have asked them questions in person as well as sent questions to both the House Speaker and the Senate President about this issue, and you'll hear more from them about their plans coming up at 10. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. House Speaker Adrian Jones and Senate President Bill Ferguson are two of the most powerful lawmakers in Annapolis right now. If you want to talk with them about juvenile justice laws, their phone numbers and email addresses are on your screen.
A local nonprofit is accused of misusing more than $100,000 in ARPA funding. How the city government is trying to recoup those losses.
Years into our investigation, we're learning new details on how a major anti-violence program trains its workers, tracks violent incidents, and more. Hearing from a former employee about the inner workings of Safe Streets.
New polls show low marks for both President Biden and former President Donald Trump. I'm Janae Bowens in Washington with a look at voters' concerns.
And guess what? Still feeling the effects of former Ophelia. Lots of clouds and a little bit of drizzle here and there all the way through the PM commute. Probably not even enough to wet most roadways, but keep in mind there could be a little bit. Temperatures in the 60s. I'll let you know when sun and 70s and maybe near 80 could be back in our forecast. That's my Weather Authority forecast coming up.
Fox 45 News, winner of 16 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
Well, a live look at the Capitol now as lawmakers remain deadlocked on a spending bill. If they can't reach an agreement soon, the government will shut down. The White House is looking to put the blame on the GOP, citing divisions in their own party that are making it difficult to negotiate, and some members' refusal to compromise on key spending issues. Now, some Republicans worry about blowback if negotiations fail, while others are not concerned with the long-term consequences.
You have to keep the government open. I mean, if people want to close the government, it only makes them weaker.
They're going to get paid back pay whenever we open back up, and we will open back up. Look, Jim, the sun's going to still shine. The oceans, the tide's still coming in and out.
McCarthy is not giving up hope. Instead of putting out a continuing resolution, which conservatives don't want, he will try to move several separate spending bills to avoid a shutdown. Whatever they come up with has to also pass a Democratic majority in the Senate.
Two new polls show low marks for President Joe Biden. This as some Democrats raise concerns over his electability for a second term. National correspondent Janae Bowens has a deeper look at the findings.
New polls signal trouble for President Joe Biden.
There's just this sort of skepticism of Biden based on this sort of, I think, thought that, he's basically too old to do the job. And that's expressed repeatedly in polls. Two new polls show President Biden's disapproval rating hitting a new high of 56%. 3/4 of voters in both an NBC News poll and a Washington Post ABC News poll say his age is a key issue. And many are unhappy with his handling of the economy. Only 37% approve in the NBC poll, and 44% in the Washington Post ABC poll say they're worse off financially under Biden's presidency. That's the most for any president since 1986.
You hear all of this great news, and then you go into the grocery store and you're still in the aisle where they sell the vegetables and the fruit. You haven't even turned around to the meat, and already you've spent $70.
The president's allies are sticking by his side.
I think he is the strongest candidate, and I believe very strongly that the American people believe that as well.
But the president's recent flub while speaking at a Congressional Black Caucus event this weekend isn't helping.
LL Cool J. By the way, that man's got biceps bigger than my thighs.
The president earned the Donkey of the Day on the hip-hop morning show, The Breakfast Club.
Joe Biden should not need a teleprompter to know there's not two J's in LL Cool J.
This highlights the waning enthusiasm amongst younger voters, blacks, and Latinos for the upcoming election, all key demographics for Democrats.
Biden's approval rating is bad, but it was also bad during the midterms last year. That was an election where the Democrats, did okay.
Experts tell me polls a year out from the election can't tell the entire story. But with voters expressing concerns of both President Biden and former President Donald Trump, next year's election is sure to be a close one if they face off again. In Washington, I'm Janae Bowens.
We made it to Monday. We survived Ophelia. Barely, right?
Barely. It was a deluge out there.
So much rain.
Yeah, got over 2 inches of rain, but we're still running about 2.5 inches below average. If you wouldn't believe it, for the year. Now, we've had a fairly rainy, I guess, late summer, September timeframe. But before that, if you remember, it was real dry. So
I don't remember.
It's not easy to remember.
I only remember right now.
But right now, we're still stuck in the dreariness, and that is, Mary and Kai, from Ophelia still. Now, Ophelia is a thing of the past, but the leftover circulation, the leftover moisture, it's kind of gotten detached from the main highway of winds in the atmosphere to take it away. So there it is, still kind of making a spin here right around Albany, Boston, New Haven in Connecticut, New York. And you get a picture here of some of the rain. It's, in fact, kind of even almost retrograding a little bit back down to the south and west. And we've had a couple of spots of light rain and drizzle here and there. Still on the Delaware coastline, actually, it looks like it's just expired. Have some coastal flood warnings that were left over, but those, looks like they just got reissued. Either way, it looks like the effects of Ophelia are going to be gradually diminishing for us and for the entire Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. But it's going to take a couple of days. It's kind of detached from the main wind flow to shift this thing out of here like most weather patterns do. So we're going to still deal with this into tonight, into tomorrow, maybe even into early Wednesday. You see these very light rain amounts, maybe a tenth, couple hundredths of an inch of rain. That could be the case for this afternoon into tonight, even into tomorrow. There could be a little light rain or drizzle, maybe even going into the O's game for tomorrow evening as we make that run at winning the NL East, of course. 68 degrees right now, winds out of the northeast at 7 miles an hour. So it is a cool and moist wind flow that continues. The dew point at 60, but that's on the fall with that dew point a little on the high side, gives it that damp feel, but looks good on our traffic camera network. A little bit slow, but that's not weather related. On the north end of the Beltway. Temperatures right now at 68 degrees here in Baltimore, 65 Cockeysville. A little more sun as you get farther away from that Ophelia leftover circulation. 70 there at Frederick, closer to the circulation, of course. You get north and east up in places like Elkton as you head into Cecil County. We're only in the low 60s right now. So there's the leftovers of Ophelia. Dreary weather continues. There's still some rain and drizzle off to our north and east. Guess what? The tropics, they're not done yet. Philippe out in the tropics. That is in the central Atlantic, winds at about 50 miles an hour. But this looks like it's going to recurve back out into the open Atlantic and away, so just affecting the fish there. There's a high chance of development that's moving off the coast of Africa right now, so that's one to watch for our next tropical depression. But around here, again, those Ophelia remnants still giving us those sprinkles, light showers, even into the overnight hours, and early tomorrow morning could have some wet roadways here and there. By the time we get to the O's game, though, looks like maybe a little bit of drying. There still could be a sprinkle or spritz. And then I think by early on Wednesday, we're just back to clouds. And by Wednesday afternoon, yes, what's that? Could see a little bit of sun. 70 to 75 Thursday, few showers on Friday. Look at that weekend just in time. Sunshine back, could near 80 by Sunday.
Jonathan, thanks. How much money was wasted and how is the city getting it back? What we're learning about the city's spending on its Clean Core program. She graduated with honors but nearly flunked out of college. The warning from a concerned parent as Project Baltimore investigates city schools. And next, a suspect opens fire in an Annapolis neighborhood, sending one person to the hospital. What we're learning about the damage and the search for those responsible. Well, a woman rushed to the hospital and a number of cars damaged after a gunman opens fire in an Annapolis neighborhood. Brad Bell from our Sinclair sister station in D.C. is live in Annapolis tonight with the very latest on this. Brad?
Yeah, look, this was a lot of gunfire last night, and much of Annapolis heard it. For whatever reason, the atmospherics or whatever. We're about a mile away from the State House as the crow flies. We're in Eastport, and there were a lot of shots. People in this neighborhood are saying enough is enough because it is not an uncommon occurrence. The gunfire shattering the quiet of a Sunday evening, the sound captured on security systems. Just listen. It lasts 12 seconds. And when it's done, a longtime resident and City of Annapolis Department of Transportation employee is down, shot in both legs as she arrived home from work with some groceries. An unintended target. She's expected to recover, but the entire community is injured in a way as well. This shooting following another 2 weeks ago and just 2 blocks away. Residents today telling us something must be done to stop the violence.
I mean, it's an impact. It does have an emotional tear. I mean, it phases you. You hear it so much. I mean, it's bad that you can't be outside, have your kids out here without knowing what's gonna happen. You mean it's pathetic.
It's treated as just another thing that happens, and it's unfair to every single person that lives in this community.
So look, we're continuing to work this story. When we come back at 5, we take those concerns to the acting mayor and the chief of police here in Annapolis. You're going to hear the answers to our questions. You're also going to hear from the husband of the woman who was shot. He was with her. He actually fell over her on the ground to try to shield her body as that gunfire continued. In Annapolis, Brad Bell, Fox 45 News.
Brad, thank you. We'll look for those details at 5. Well, a former Safe Streets employee speaking out how they're finally helping us understand what goes into training and monitoring the workers in the program. And hundreds of thousands of dollars that were meant to help clean up Baltimore wasted. What we're learning about how much money the city is trying to claw back from its Clean Core program.
According to new documents uncovered by Fox 45 News, the city is currently working to claw back more than $100,000 from a local nonprofit. Last year, the Lazarus Wright Foundation was selected by the mayor's Clean Core initiative to help clean up trash and debris from city streets. But Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor reports that group is now being accused of wasting your taxpayer dollars. Rebecca?
That's right, Kai. We're told that several red flags went ignored when this nonprofit was picked for a $1.6 million city contract. Not only did the owner of the Lazarus Wright Foundation declare bankruptcy last year, his house was also in foreclosure, and yet the city still awarded Christopher Irvin's nonprofit one of the mayor's 6 Clean Core contracts. It came with a $415,000 advance. However, according to an email exchange between Irvin and the Baltimore Civic Fund, which oversees nonprofit spending, within 4 months, the entire advance was gone. Irvin had also halted all cleanup efforts without telling the city or explaining why. After investigating his spending, the city is now demanding $129,000 be paid back, as well as $8,000 worth of equipment. Taxpayer advocate David Williams claims it's a clear sign that Baltimore City is not providing enough oversight or accountability when giving private nonprofits public dollars.
This is just the tip of the iceberg, I think, for Baltimore City, because the federal money that they receive through ARPA, a lot of it is going to nonprofits, whether it's cleaning up the city, whether it's for violence prevention, and there needs to be a lot more investigation into this.
Now, back in June, Irvin claimed that he would sit down for an interview with me to explain where this money went. However, since then, he has ignored my many calls, texts, and emails. The city says it's now working with him on a payment plan to recoup the missing funding. It's also important to note that Irvin is currently running for a Baltimore City Council seat. Reporting live in Baltimore City, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
A person was shot and another stabbed in Sandtown, Winchester last night. Police responded to the scene on North Carey Street around 8:30. A 38-year-old man had been shot and was taken to the hospital in critical condition. Later that night, 2 other people walked into a local hospital with stab wounds related to the shooting. Police say all 3 people were likely injured during a fight in a nearby home. Anyone with information should contact Baltimore Police.
Well, tonight, Fox 45 is hearing from a former Safe Streets employee who used to work in the Sandtown Winchester neighborhood, trying to prevent violent crime just like that. The former worker speaking out about what it was like in the program. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost has the story.
The Sandtown Safe Streets location sits along Fremont Avenue.
I was the site supervisor here at Sandtown for 4 years.
One of 10 sites in Baltimore and one of 4 locations managed by Catholic Charities.
The upper management is failing them, and that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm talking about.
Sean Colbert came to Fox 45 News ready to talk about he says Safe Streets is being implemented. And he says there isn't enough leadership to support the program or people like him.
The potential is phenomenal.
Was there a training, a process that you started that was provided?
No, there's no training. It's like instinct. You're hired because of your instincts and what you're naturally known for in the community coming up. Speaking about the employees, the violence interrupters and the supervisors at Safe Street, they're just looking for leadership.
Safe Streets is a $20 million program, one Mayor Brandon Scott routinely refers to as the city's flagship gun violence prevention program. But long-term data suggests inconclusive effectiveness across all Safe Streets sites when it comes to sustained reductions in homicides and non-fatal shootings. The city often stonewalls us when we ask for information, shielding the names of the violence interrupters, staying tight-lipped about how workers are trained and how their jobs operate. We've gone to all 10 locations looking for Safe Streets workers to find out more details.
Are you the site director for this location?
In January of this year, we found Sean going inside.
No statements whatsoever. Y'all have a great day.
Later, we found out that was his last day on the job.
Did you ever get a directive from anyone above you not to talk to the media?
Absolutely. Right now, I've just committed the ultimate sin of expressing to Mackenzie Frost some stuff about safety.
After an internal review last year of the program showing the need for more training, the mayor's office rolling out new efforts. According to Mayor Scott in the city, the violence interrupters are supposed to walk around their community, learn about potential beefs, and mediate any tensions before someone pulls the trigger of a gun. The mediations are used as a metric of success, often touted on city social media sites and used in city council hearings to prove Safe Streets is working. We've asked several times how a mediation is defined, and since the public is footing the bill for this program, if they can see the forms used by the workers to track their efforts.
Have you seen the form that the Safe Streets workers used when they go out in the communities and talk to people, that they keep track of their mediations?
I have probably not seen them in a long time, but I've been working with this organization for many, many years, so I know what they do. I'm in full support of what they do.
Can the public see that form?
We're talking about a very privileged document, Mackenzie.
So there is a document does exist?
We're talking about a very sensitive process. We cannot put those workers at risk just because we want to think about and critique and criticize something that some people don't understand.
Can the public see a blank form?
I think the public should trust and know, just like they trust our police officers, that these lifesavers are out there doing their work.
But Colbert says a mediation isn't clear.
Something occurred that I got involved with that had I not got involved with could have possibly led to some bad stuff. That's a mediation.
But it's really subjective. There's no clear definition.
Right.
What happens after a violence interrupter goes out into the community, does that mediation like you described? How does that information translate from?
So they got the database. You know, they had cure violence. They changed cure violence at the end of 22 to apricot.
The violence interrupters come back here and they put that information into the computer.
They input their, whatever happened during the day, their daily.
But they don't carry a form with them and keep track while they're out.
No.
To see Safe Streets succeed, Colbert suggests removing the mayor's oversight to ensure there's independence for the Safe Streets program.
Safe Street is in a damaging moment right now. They need leadership overview, oversight, and reassess.
Mackenzie joins us live in studio now. Mackenzie, Sean has a lot of insight into Safe Streets. He has a lot to say. Does he answer some of the questions you've been asking for years?
Yeah, Mary, absolutely, especially when it comes to those mediations and how they're tracked. You just heard it right there after we questioned the mayor about it. Colbert also says the time cards for violence interrupters are up to the directors to input, which means there's really not a system for workers to actually punch in or out. Today, we went over to the Sandtown Safe Streets location where Colbert used to work. We went because there was that shooting in the Sandtown Safe Streets zone last night, and we wanted to see what was going on. We spoke with a neighbor who lives just blocks from that location. He didn't want his face on camera, but here's what he said about Safe Streets overall.
Another wasted taxpayer money. They don't do nothing. I see them once in a while. Inside that, that's it.
You can hear more from that neighbor describe the shooting last night and more from Sean Colbert, that former Safe Streets worker, coming up in about 30 minutes. We're live in the studio. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. Well, making headlines, a former Morgan State basketball player was killed in a D.C. nightclub shooting over the weekend. 31-year-old Blake Bozeman played basketball at Morgan State for 4 years. Last night, he was one of 4 people shot at Crew nightclub. 3 other victims were treated for non-life-threatening injuries. The suspect in the shooting has still not been arrested. Anybody with information should contact D.C. police. More reaction to a Project Baltimore investigation, which found only 11% of students at the best public high schools in Baltimore City are proficient in math.
That stunning finding is not surprising to one family. Their daughter, an honor student in city schools, was simply not prepared for college, they say. Desmond Stinney's daughter graduated from Poly in 2020. Poly is one of the city's highest performing high schools. The honor student was accepted into one of the United States military academies, but Stinney said when she got there, she wasn't prepared academically, especially in math, and nearly failed.
The test scores are absolutely revealing the shortcomings of the classroom instruction. We're setting them up to fail.
Well, these are the top 5 public high schools in Baltimore City in terms of math scores. Coming up tonight at 10 o'clock, we'll show you how each of these schools performed on the state math test. 3 of them have math results under 10%.
Well, Project Baltimore also reported there are 13 city high schools with 0 students who took the state exams this past spring, scoring proficient in math. That leads to our question of the day. Do you trust the state school board to take the appropriate action to improve public education? You can vote right now by heading to foxbaltimore.com/vote, clicking on that Pulse tab. Elected officials from California to Texas to New York are asking the federal government to do more. They are dealing with thousands of migrants arriving to their towns and cities with not enough resources to process or house them. National correspondent Christine Frizzau brings us the latest.
Border at just 23% and disapproval at 62%.
It's a national security threat. Drugs and people on the terrorist watch list, economic security threat. Even the mayor of New York says it's too much. His city can't take it.
New York City Mayor Eric Adams just announced he'll limit single adult migrants to just 30 days in city-run shelters, with fears the right to shelter laws there have become a magnet. Adams, part of a growing group of Democratic mayors, blaming President Biden and the federal government for not doing enough. Without a plan from Washington, some state lawmakers putting forth their own to try to take business away from human traffickers and instead charge migrants $2,000 to be assessed and enter the country legally.
It was found that they had $2,000 to $5,000 in their pockets because that's what they have to pay the cartel and the human smugglers to cross them. If we took that industry away and the state of Texas charged a processing for an ID with an RFID chip, so that we could process them through our dry land ports.
There are signs relief could be ahead after a new agreement was just reached. Mexico has agreed to deport migrants from its border cities back to their home countries and to take new actions to deter migrants from entering the United States. I'm Christine Frizzau reporting.
You can order those free at-home test kits beginning today from the government once again. I'm Liz Bonus. We'll tell you what you need to know to have them sent to your family. It's just ahead.
And if you're going to be doing a little outdoor workout, trying to brush off the cobwebs after a real rainy weekend, well, still some clouds, a little bit of patchy drizzle, temperatures in the 60s. I'm going to let you know how things shape up for the O's back in town tomorrow. That's coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.
COVID cases are spiking again. Hospitalizations for children are on the rise. In fact, federal data shows nearly 1,200 children were admitted to the hospital with COVID during the week that ended September 9th. Still, coronavirus admissions among children are below previous pandemic peaks. With the recent rise in COVID cases and cold and flu season right around the corner, the federal government is once again offering free at-home COVID tests. Starting today, you can order 4 free COVID-19 tests from the government. The tests are free, and so is shipping, which starts next week. Every household can order 4 through covidtests.gov. Federal officials say those at-home tests will be a critical part of preventing another mass surge in COVID cases, but some are concerned about their effectiveness. Medical reporter Liz Bonus explains.
Hey there, everybody. You can get 4 free home COVID-19 tests by simply submitting your order beginning this week online. You simply go to the government site, click on Order Free at-Home Tests, and put in your name and home address. The tests are available for order are rapid antigen at-home tests, not PCR. They can be taken at home or other locations, and they give you the results in about 30 minutes. They also can be used for testing whether you have COVID-19 symptoms or not, or whether or not your vaccinations are up to date. You can also voluntarily report positive or negative results through the test site to help continue to help us track COVID-19 across the country. As for why you might want to keep a few of these tests around, just ask Mom, Diamond Lacey.
Leasia had COVID, Azaria had COVID, and Kalia had COVID, and I and my husband also had COVID.
When COVID hits one family member, it tends to spread quickly, and it
causes a lot of similar symptoms to upper respiratory tract infections.
Ohio's Tri-Health Family Medicine specialist Dr. Scott Wood says testing right away can help you start antivirals to shorten the symptoms of COVID-19 or maybe the flu.
But boy, their symptoms cross over a lot.
The other reason to order your test now, you may need more than one to know you even have COVID-19.
We've been seeing a lot of people who end up being COVID positive who are testing COVID negative on day 1 and 2 with the rapid test.
Now, if you need help placing an order for your at-home test, there is a phone number, 1-800-232-0233. And there is also a number if you need hearing assistance, a TTY number, 1-888-720-7489. And if you go to that website, there's also a list. It's on the government site, and it has places in your state where you can have no-cost antigen or PCR tests to follow these at-home tests, even if you do not have health insurance. I'm medical reporter Liz Bonus. Back to you.
All right, still dealing with the remnants of Ophelia, or the remnants of Ophelia, we'll say, kind of the ghost of Ophelia, I suppose. Coastal flood warning actually still out for the Delaware beaches with the circulation of Ophelia spinning around off to our north, so there's still some extra water being pushed along the Atlantic coastline. But around here, not a whole lot going on the radar, but some of this rain, if you will, it's kind of shifting back off to the south and southwest. Eventually, actually, this whole system drifts south and then eventually east and away. And in that process, I think we may increase our coverage of some light rain and drizzle for the remainder of today, especially tonight into tomorrow morning. And then it'll start slackening off. And I think finally we'll get out of the grips of this thing by midweek. But for now, again, another day with gloom and a little bit of drizzle. Had over 2 inches of rain out of Ophelia over the weekend, just adding on another just over a tenth here in Baltimore. We're still running about 2.5 inches below average in terms of rainfall on the year, so we still could use some more. And there's not a whole lot more in the forecast. Now, what there is a lot more of, at least the next couple of days, is this, clouds. Toyota Ishida Harbor Sky Cam at 68, winds out of the north-northeast at 7, humidity at 76%. Dew point, that's our measure of moisture in the air. That's at 60. Usually when that's in the 60s, kind of have that like damp feel, if you will, and that's what it feels like right now. And I think actually for tomorrow, too, we'll have some of those clouds for the O's game when they're back in town. Baltimore right now is at 68, 62 up at Elkton. So you get closer to that circulation, deeper into the clouds and that kind of easterly wind flow coming off of the Atlantic. That's where your coolest temperatures are. Get up banked across the mountains. We're at 70 degrees at Frederick, where we peaked out in a little bit of sunshine today. And here in Baltimore, of course, we're kind of in the middle. Weather map shows the dreary conditions continue. Look at all that rain up toward Boston, Massachusetts, back down toward New York. I don't think we're going to get into anything that heavy, but we will see, again, that persistent drizzle overnight into tomorrow. So have an umbrella in the car. Also out in the tropics, there's Philippe. Good news with this one. It does not look like an Ophelia or a Lee. It looks like it makes that turn out in the Atlantic nice and early, hopefully early enough that it's just impacting the fish. Then there's also an 80% chance of tropical development in the next 7 days. That's off the coast of West Africa, so that's one to watch. Potentially becoming a tropical depression. But around here, really what we're concerned about, again, is that drizzle on and off through 5:45 p.m. through 9:30 p.m. this evening. Maybe a little break, but more of the light rain and drizzle fills back in. Maybe even a patch or two of fog as you're waking up tomorrow morning. Get ready to maybe turn on those wipers. Keep them nice and clean with that potential of drizzle into the morning commute tomorrow. And then as we head into the afternoon, of course, we got the O's game. I think we'll start to dry out, and then we dry out even further into Wednesday. Wednesday, we can make a run at 70 once again, 73 on Thursday, few showers on Friday, and that really kicks this pattern. Look at that sunshine and highs in the mid-70s to near 80. So summer not totally done just yet, although it's fall here Saturday, Sunday into Monday.
All right, Jonathan, thank you. And take a look at this. We're waiting to find out if a local family was able to win big on Family Feud. The Bosley family from Westminster already competed, and their episode airs tonight. They joined us on the Fox 45 Morning News to tell us about their experience on the show.
Poor Olivia, in the end, we were worried about her having to do sudden death, and you'll see tonight, well, it ended up, we had to.
Okay, all right.
But
that's
everything
good.
went well.
Yep.
It went well.
Fighting nails then.
It made it exciting, for
really
sure.
exciting.
Oh,
What's Steve Harvey like, though? Is he kind of like the way that we see him on air?
He is exactly like that.
Is he?
Exactly
Okay.
like that. He's
Very nice
so
guy.
funny.
Did you guys, tell us, did you break down how you're going to attack certain questions or certain ways, or afterwards, whoever gets to go for the, afterwards, after the show, when you get to the final round, do you pick that ahead of time or no?
We did talk about it ahead of time.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And were there any arguments or anything, or everyone kind of pointed to the same two people?
No, not really. No one really jumped for the opportunity.
Well, remember, you can watch them compete on Fox 45 tonight at 6:30. And coming up at 5 o'clock, auto thefts are surging across the state, leaving victims with emotional and financial hardship. We speak with the taxpayer advocate about how this impacts Baltimore's economy. And food, music, and a day at the beach. We take a look ahead at what you can expect from the Annapolis Bay Grass Festival coming up. Well, you can break out that banjo and mosey on down to some Bay-themed tunes. The Annapolis Baygrass Festival is this weekend at Sandy Point State Park. The celebration of bluegrass music features more than a dozen performers. This morning, Fox 45 News got an early look.
Jam it up, people. Let's show them what they got.
Up in the morning, put on my boots, coffee grinds, sad blues, kiss my wife, my baby too, off to the mines. So I do what my daddy did, he did what his daddy did, he did what his daddy did in the hard times.
Well, for more information on tickets, the performers, and more, head to our website, foxbaltimore.com.
All right, taking a look at that weekend forecast. I think you're going to like what you see here. We're getting some payback after what happened this past weekend. Now, on Friday, there will be a few spot showers, I think. I think it's mainly light stuff. There's a disturbance that rolls through, and that's going to usher in some gorgeous, gorgeous weather for the weekend. Saturday as well as into Sunday. Looks like we could be sun-filled all weekend long, although a spot shower here on Friday, 73, but warming up nicely Saturday and Sunday. Look at this forecast for yard cleanup. I know I got a lot of stray leaves, branches around after Ophelia. Well, mostly cloudy showers. Not a great day for getting out there on Friday, but Saturday, Sunday, want to hold over into Monday as well. All green for getting out there and doing that yard cleaning.
All right, Jonathan, thank you. A massive Powerball jackpot is up for grabs tonight. The Powerball's top prize has grown to $785 million after no one won the jackpot Saturday. The one-time cash payout for the jackpot, an estimated $367 million. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5, swimming in credit card debt, the alarming stats not seen since 2008. And the threat of a government shutdown, a hot topic in D.C., the new efforts to avoid a disaster. A shooting in a Safe Street zone prompts more questions about the violence intervention program. Fox 45 News sits down with a former worker who speaks out about the program's flaws.
Baltimore City could soon have a permanent police commissioner. We press city council members on their top concerns for Richard Worley.
Analyzing the impacts of car thefts on victims, why one woman was forced to pay speeding tickets after her car was stolen.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 5.
We stuck in a rat trap with nobody having the courage to say, we died.
A former Safe Streets worker speaking with Fox 45 News about how the program operates. Thank you for staying with us. I'm Mary Bubala.
And I'm Kai Jackson. It's a story you'll only see on Fox 45 News.
And today, more questions about the gun violence prevention program.
Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost joins us live. Mackenzie, what are you learning?
Well, Kai and Mary, Sean Colbert argues that there needs to be more oversight and leadership within the program to see success. And over the weekend, there was a shooting in one of the Safe Streets zones, the same Safe Streets zone where Sean used to work. So we went over there earlier today to check out and see if we could find any sort of response. A ripped piece of crime scene tape on the ground Monday is a reminder of what happened Sunday evening.
The shot woke me up.
Neighbor Theodore White doesn't want his face on TV, but describes the scene he saw across the street.
And when I came in the door, then I saw the crowd and the police was out there.
A 38-year-old man shot, 2 others stabbed, and just blocks from where blood stained the white marble steps sits the Sandtown Safe Streets site, the same spot where Sean Colbert used to work as a site supervisor for 4 years, helping to oversee the violence interrupters.
They identify and treat the high-risk individuals in the community.
But Colbert argues the leadership within the program and Catholic Charities as the nonprofit running this site isn't strong enough.
The upper management is failing them, and that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm talking about.
Colbert argues without clear guidelines and training, Safe Streets won't be as successful as it could be.
There's no accountability. There's no accountability. I mean, I don't know how else to say it, but it's not a workers' problem. It's a management problem. It's a leadership problem.
Colbert isn't alone in his frustrations with Safe Streets, which is often touted by Mayor Brandon Scott as the city's flagship gun violence prevention program.
It's wasting taxpayer money.
Back on Carey Street, Theodore White says he rarely sees the violence interrupters who are supposed to work just up the street.
They don't do nothing. I see them once in a while. Inside that's it.
We knocked on the Safe Streets site door, but no one answered. Just a few minutes later, one worker says he heard about the shooting. Are you guys gonna go over there or what happens now? Adding some workers would be going over to the scene later. But going inside and locking the door without telling us exactly when that would happen. So we went over to the neighborhood and we were there until about 2 o'clock this afternoon. And we never saw any of those Safe Streets workers going up and talking to any of the neighbors in that community. Meanwhile, BPD is asking anyone with information about that shooting and stabbing to contact them or Metro Crime Stoppers. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. Now, Fox 45 News has been investigating the Safe Streets program for years. You can find all of our reporting on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
And Baltimore is one step closer to having a new top cop.
Alexa Ashwell is live outside City Hall, where Baltimore City Council will vote on whether to approve acting Baltimore Police Commissioner Richard Worley's nomination. Alexa?
Hi, Mary. That vote will happen about this time next week. So in about a week, we've been asking members of Baltimore City Council how they plan to vote and why. So far, we have yet to hear a single response. Political experts say this vote may not only impact public safety here in Baltimore, but political futures as well. Political analyst John Deedy predicts the remaining members of Baltimore City Council will approve Worley's nomination after he received unanimous approval Council's Oversight Committee last week. Worley was selected by Mayor Brandon Scott. Deedy says that they could ultimately go.
Now the mayor has his people in these jobs. He inherited the others. Now he has his people in, which means there, in many ways, there's more accountability for the mayor's office on stuff because he has selected these individuals. The thing they have to be on top of is no reruns of what happened in Brooklyn. They also have to focus more on this youth crime situation to get that better under control.
And again, that vote will happen here at City Hall on October 2nd. Reporting live outside City Hall, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Alexa, thank you. And during his confirmation hearing, Worley stressed attacking the city's car theft problem will be a top priority if he is confirmed. This year, close to 8,000 cars have been stolen in Baltimore. The main targets, Hyundais and Kias. Between the 9th and 16th of this month, 292 cars were taken. That is more than 41 thefts a day. Fox 45 News has been hearing from countless victims and the struggles they went through after the thefts.
They shouldn't make me a victim 2 and 3 times. I was a victim once with my car being stolen. I was a victim with the insurance company, and I was a victim with the city of Baltimore.
Well, those words from a Baltimore County woman describing the headaches and further victimization after her car was stolen last month. Fox 45's Amy Simpson is live right now as we continue to hear from some of the thousands of drivers who've become auto theft victims in recent months. Amy?
Yes, Kai, so some of these victims sharing frustrations over the lack of accountability for the people actually committing these crimes, but they're also describing an uphill battle to get back on the road.
6 weeks later, a few shards of glass remain in the parking spot outside her home.
And my car was gone.
Cindy Garofalo says she's among the thousands of drivers throughout the Baltimore region whose cars have been snatched in recent months.
Oh, it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Broad daylight.
This Baltimore County woman asked us not to show her face, but her car being taken by thieves was only the beginning of the headache.
It's not so much my car was stolen, it was all the other stuff.
On top of dealing with insurance.
First time I've ever filed a claim and I got nothing but grief from them.
Garofalo said her car was recovered the very next day, August 12th, in Baltimore City, but described the weeks it allegedly took for that car to be released.
I mean, there's no reason why your car should be held hostage for 30 days in the impound zone.
In the meantime, this notice from Baltimore City showing up in her mailbox, not once, but twice.
Failure to claim this vehicle within 11 working days.
Saying failure to reclaim the car will be considered a waiver of all rights and considered consent to the sale of the vehicle.
I was upset because now you're going to sell my car if I don't get it, but you won't give it to me. I kept calling them about my car. When can I get my car? When can I get my car?
Then the icing on the cake, 2 speeding tickets in the mail. Photos from the city's roadside camera showing her baby blue Hyundai Sonata, clear as day. But the timestamps on those infractions, 5:49 and 7:25 p.m., both within hours of when the car was taken on August 11th.
They said, well, it would probably happen while it was stolen. They told me that. And I said, well, why should I have to pay for it? They said, well, we're not going to release your car unless you pay the 2 speeding tickets.
She paid those 2 $40 fines, finally got her car out of impound, and about a week ago got the keys for this Nissan sedan, her new ride. But her next hurdle will be getting that money back.
I had to go online and pay it, $80. And now I have to go to jump through hoops to try to get them to give me my $80 back.
Now, we asked Baltimore City's Department of Transportation why victims are being expected to pay for fines incurred when their cars are stolen. Today, that question was not even acknowledged. We're live in Baltimore. Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
So frustrating, Amy. Thank you. Well, these thefts are not only having a physical and emotional impact on residents, also impacting the local economy. Today on Fox 45 Morning News, we spoke with a taxpayer watchdog on what these thefts are costing Baltimore.
You have thousands of car thefts in the city this year, and that's going to mean an increase in premiums for car insurance for consumers. And these consumers are going to have to get another car, so they may have to shell out more money for that. So that's another thing. But also businesses. I think businesses are really going to suffer from this because what's going to happen is people are leaving the city. People aren't going to be coming into the city to go to the businesses because they're afraid of the car thefts and the carjackings. And I think that's probably a bigger issue than homicides. Obviously, homicide is a worse crime, but when you have thousands of these carjackings, that's going to really contribute bad to the economy, and it also has a taxpayer impact.
Well, Baltimore County Police will offer Hyundai owners with key starting ignitions a necessary anti-software upgrade. That will happen next Saturday, October 7th, from 7 in the morning until 3:30 in the afternoon at the Thompson Hyundai in Dundalk. Now, in addition to the upgrades, the department will offer free steering wheel locks. To see if you are eligible for that upgrade, you can find a link on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
And if you have a stolen car story or know somebody who's been impacted by the spike in auto thefts, we want to hear about it. Scan that QR code right there on your screen. Tell us what happened or send us an email to news@foxbaltimore.com.
In Anne Arundel County, police say 15 juveniles committed a number of crimes around the county, including carjackings, car thefts, and a robbery at gunpoint. 6 of the teens were arrested at one time outside the Glen Burnie Chuck E. Cheese after police say they hit another car in a stolen vehicle and robbed a sporting goods store. Fox 45 News is working to learn more about what happened.
Well, those teenagers are old enough to be charged and prosecuted under state law, but we have seen a number of cases recently where young people accused in crimes are too young to be charged. And there are growing calls for lawmakers to do something about it, saying elected leaders aren't acting quickly enough to make a change.
If you don't work on this immediately and you say we're going to look at it in January and we're going to ask the governor to sign it in April, May, or June, and it's effective in July or maybe October, the wake of victims is going to be tremendous.
Well, Fox 45 News is inviting Senate President Bill Ferguson and House Speaker Adrian Jones to talk about juvenile crime concerns. So far, we haven't gotten a response, and we've also sent questions to both offices regarding these concerns and asked about it in person. Mackenzie Frost will have a full report on the issue tonight on Fox 45 News at 10. House Speaker Jones and Senate President Ferguson are 2 of the most powerful lawmakers in Annapolis. If you want to talk with them about the juvenile justice laws, their phone numbers and email addresses are right there on your screen.
The race for mayor of Baltimore is heating up. Fox 45 News is asking the top candidates to participate in a series of town halls. The battle for the mayor's office could be a race between Brandon Scott and former Mayor Sheila Dixon. Fox 45 News has reached out to the candidates, inviting them to answer questions in multiple bi-weekly town halls. So far, we've not heard back from either Dixon or Scott. We'll keep you updated on their responses.
Well, coming up after the break, a looming government shutdown, top of mind for leaders in Washington. Why House Speaker McCarthy is now saying he's optimistic.
Americans hold a record level of credit card debt, but a growing number of them can't pay it off. I'm Atrell Nashar with why major banks are preparing for things to get worse.
And if you'll be out and about, maybe getting a flight out of BWI this evening, it looks like it's cool and clammy. Not a whole lot of change. Temperatures at 64 at 7 p.m. Overcast at 9, 61, and right around 60 with some drizzle and light rain around as we head into the evening. I'm going to let you know how long that's going to last and if that impacts your plans for the Orioles tomorrow. My Weather Authority forecast.
Fox 45 News, winner of 16 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
Topping your consumer news now, the share of Americans who are unable to pay their credit card bills is growing at the fastest pace since the 2008 financial crisis, and it is expected to get worse. National correspondent Atra El-Nashar takes a look at what this means for Americans holding a record level of debt.
For Americans with credit cards, a troubling trend is emerging, one that hasn't been seen in years and usually occurs during a financial crisis. Credit card losses, which is when someone does not pay their bills, are rising at the fastest pace since the 2008 recession, according to Goldman Sachs.
It's when the credit card company is essentially writing off that debt.
Investopedia editor-in-chief Caleb Silver says it's the convergence of two things: higher interest rates from the Federal Reserve and a surge in spending since the pandemic.
Americans love to spend, and getting them to stop spending, even when you have record high credit card debt, is very difficult, especially as we're heading into the holiday season.
Goldman predicts most credit card issuers won't see losses peak until late 2024, early 2025, with the highest losses seen by Discover and Capital One. And while the share of losses to total debt is still historically low, Americans do hold record high credit card debt of more than $1 trillion, according to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. Fed Chair Jerome Powell says he and his colleagues are watching consumer credit carefully as they consider another interest rate increase before the end of the year to slow inflation.
Consumer distress, measures of distress among consumers were at historic lows quite recently, during and after the pandemic. They're now moving back up to normal.
Also on the rise is the number of Americans delinquent on their auto loans, now above pre-pandemic levels.
So as you see more and more people fall behind on these payments, you're going to see delinquencies rise across these categories, and that could contribute to a big economic slowdown, if not a recession.
Now, protecting the economy are the low unemployment rate and wage growth. But another element of uncertainty is coming up in October with the resumption of student loan payments for about 40 million borrowers, taking up money they could otherwise spend paying down other forms of debt. In Washington, I'm Atra El-Nashar.
Well, taking you live now to our nation's capital, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy appears to believe things are looking up after a weekend of negotiating to avoid a government shutdown. McCarthy walking into the Capitol Monday morning saying a significant number of holdouts within his own party are starting to make some concessions. McCarthy emphasizing we need to avoid a shutdown at all costs.
Well, you have to keep the government open. I mean, if people want to close the government, it only makes them weaker. Why would they want to stop paying the troops or stop paying the border agents or the Coast Guard? I don't understand how that makes you stronger. I don't understand what point you're trying to make.
Well, the House Speaker was asked about Ukraine. He called that funding supplemental and that we need to deal with the border issues first. Tropical storm Ophelia officially moves out of our area, but not without causing some flooding on the eastern shore. Rich and Roy sending us these images of the impact the storm had in Ocean City and Bear Creek. And we are starting off the week mostly dry, but still gloomy outside. Let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers with a look at when sunshine returns. I was asking you last night, will we see a sunny Monday? You said nope.
Had a little sun at my house this morning. It tried to come out, but yeah, now it's gone. And now we've got some more drizzle that's trying to arc in from the north and the east. The Ophelia remnant circulation is very pesky due to the fact that it's just not moving very much very fast. It's kind of detached from the main highway of air that usually would pick this stuff up and move it from west to east across the country. So we're kind of arcing back a little bit of that rain toward New York, especially up toward Boston, Massachusetts. And eventually, this stuff's actually even kind of backing in a little bit. We could see some light rain and drizzle continuing around here tonight into tomorrow. Maybe a little bit of help here Wednesday, Thursday, but I don't think we really kick this pattern until the weekend, unfortunately. A few hundredths to about a tenth, maybe 2/10 of an inch of rain today. Nothing real heavy, just enough to keep those roads wet in some neighborhoods this morning. And we are seeing some light rain and drizzle right now as you take a not so pretty look on the Mile 1 Task Cam. I believe we're trying to maybe see the city skyline in the background, but visibility is not great. Winds out of the north-northeast at 8. Our dew point, that's our measure of moisture in the air. It's in the 60s with that high humidity at 87%. Feels kind of damp outside. Temperature at 66, Baltimore. Almost in the 50s up here at Elkton. and did touch 70 at Frederick. We're at 68. We actually did have 70 as well here at BWI this afternoon, even with some of the dreary conditions. It's because we had some sun that tried to peek out this morning. But that rain toward north and east, yep, still probably going to try to back in tomorrow as well. And then again, we could see maybe some baby steps to improvement in the remainder of the forecast. Now, Philippe, that also another tropical entity, but this one is way out there in the Atlantic, and it looks like that's going to make that recurve, unlike Ophelia and unlike Lee, well before it gets to the United States. So likely that will not impact anyone except the fish, but it is something to watch since it's out there, and there's also an 80% chance of tropical development now. That's off the west coast of Africa. So that's another one to watch for a tropical depression, perhaps. Now, Future Scan says into the rest of the evening hours, you see that kind of strange motion from northeast to southwest with this rain. So on and off showers and drizzle from that remnant Ophelia moisture all the way into tonight. And tomorrow, actually, for the O's game, keep our fingers crossed, kind of just tapers out a little bit as we head into the afternoon and the evening. So maybe some spits of drizzle, some clouds, a little dreary, but it doesn't look like it's going to be necessarily rainy. Fingers crossed once again. And then as we head into Wednesday, some drying skies. Lots of clouds, light rain drizzle around for tonight into tomorrow as well. Gradual drying in the afternoon. I think we'll stick with some extra clouds at least for Wednesday, Thursday, spot showers Friday. And there you go, that weekend forecast. We've been waiting for it. Mid to upper 70s to near 80, and sun comes back.
Jonathan, thank you. Still ahead tonight, a local nonprofit accused of wasting thousands of taxpayer dollars. The email exchange revealing alarming amounts of spending.
I'm Kayla Gaskins. Coming up, we'll share details of a concerning new report that highlights just how bad some of America's public education systems are performing.
New data shows an alarming number of students can't read nor do math on grade level. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins has the latest crisis in American classrooms here in Baltimore and elsewhere.
The state of America's public education system in the spotlight again.
We have a system that's just running rogue, and it starts at the top.
After concerning new state test scores show 13 of Baltimore City's 32 public schools had not one student test proficient in math among kids who took the 2023 state exam this past spring. At Baltimore's top 5 schools, only 11.4% of students who took that exam scored proficient in math.
Parents, guardians, supporters need to be outraged.
Sinclair's Project Baltimore obtaining a copy of the report before its official release.
Obviously, we have to have unbelievable urgency to it's not acceptable where we are, but that doesn't mean that the entire system is broken.
Baltimore is not the only school system struggling. During a Sinclair town hall hosted by conservative commentator Armstrong Williams, a member of the Texas State Board of Education added this.
I used to teach 5th grade, and by 5th grade, you should be able to read, and a lot of my students did not know how to read at all once they got to my classroom.
A public school teacher whose TikTok account is based in Atlanta says he deals with these issues every day.
I don't understand why they're not stressing to y'all how bad it is. I teach 7th grade, they are still performing on the 4th grade level. They just keep passing them on, 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 passing them on. I can put as many zeros in this grade book as I want to. They're going to move that child to the 8th grade next year.
Since the pandemic, those upset with the public education system have grown increasingly vocal about their frustrations.
I am not leaving.
Education Secretary Miguel Cardona telling the Associated Press he has little respect for them.
I don't have too much respect for people that are misbehaving in public and then acting as if they know what's right for kids. There's a team that's fighting for kids, and there's a team that's fighting against kids.
A new study by Arizona State University found nationwide 1/3 of 4th and 8th graders can't read on a basic level. I'm Kayla Gaskins reporting.
Coming up after the break, a Baltimore City nonprofit accused of wasting thousands of your taxpayer dollars. Fox 45 News demanding answers about the Clean Core Initiative spending. Plus, bullets fly in Annapolis neighborhood, leaving residents on edge. New details are emerging tonight.
In a city in crisis, according to new court documents uncovered by Fox 45, the city is currently working to recover more than $100,000 from a local nonprofit.
Last year, the Lazarus Wright Foundation was selected by the mayor's Clean Core initiative to help clean up trash and debris from city streets.
But as Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor reports, the group is now being accused of wasting your money. Rebecca?
That's right. I'm told that several red flags were missed when this nonprofit was picked for a $1.6 million city contract. And according to a taxpayer advocate that I spoke with, until the city sets up a system to properly assess these nonprofits, he says they're setting themselves up for more misspending. A local nonprofit tasked with picking up trash across the city, now accused of wasting thousands of taxpayer dollars. Under Mayor Brandon Scott's Clean Core initiative, the Lazarus Wright Foundation, run by Baltimore City Council candidate Christopher Irvin,
there should be a safe way to collect them.
Granted a 2-year, $1.6 million city contract and handed a $414,000 advance. But according to an email exchange between the nonprofit and the Baltimore Civic Fund, which oversees the city's nonprofit spending, within 4 months, the entire advance vanished. And when Irvin couldn't provide receipts for the missing money, the city investigating his spending, then demanding $129,000 be paid back. The city also requiring a laundry list of equipment be returned, costing about $8,000 according to Irvin's records.
It's clear that the city isn't properly vetting these nonprofits.
Taxpayer advocate David Williams believes had the city done their due diligence, Irvin declaring bankruptcy and his home currently in foreclosure should have prevented the partnership from taking place and your money from going to waste.
When you're sending it to a nonprofit, there is a lack of transparency, lack of accountability, and this is going to be a growing problem for Baltimore City taxpayers, is that more and more money is going to nonprofits.
Fox 45 sending questions to the mayor's office asking, why was Irvin's nonprofit selected for a city contract considering his financial hardships? What is the vetting process for granting public dollars to private nonprofits? And what will you do to prevent nonprofits from continuing to misuse taxpayer dollars in the future? So far, we have not heard back.
That means there's more and more chance for waste, fraud, and abuse.
Now, I also asked the mayor's office if they'll be investigating exactly what this money was misspent on and if any legal action will be taken. But again, as of News Time tonight, I have not heard back. I've also not heard back from Irvin, who back in June agreed to sit down for an interview with me. But since then, my many text calls and emails have all been ignored. The city says it is now working with Irvin on a payment plan to recoup that missing funding. Reporting live in Baltimore City, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Well, it was a violent weekend across Maryland and D.C. In Baltimore, 8 people were shot in the city in 4 separate shootings. 5 of those people died. That includes 3 double shootings.
And in Annapolis, a gunman shot up an Annapolis neighborhood. In fact, one woman was rushed to the hospital and a number of cars were damaged. Brad Bell from our Sinclair sister station in Washington has details.
The victim's husband, who doesn't want to be identified, says she was just coming home from work with some groceries, walking up to her building when it happened.
But when she got right there in the middle, shots rang out.
And not just a few shots. Listen, it was a 12-second barrage. Two of those bullets meant for someone else finding a completely innocent bystander.
She hit both her legs, but I didn't know she was hit. So when I looked, I ran out here and I stood over top of her while they were shooting.
As he tried to shield his wife from additional injury 2 blocks away, Jessica Packler was in a panic. Hearing the shots, she feared the worst for her son as he walked their dog.
And that was terrifying.
And now she's furious that her neighborhood is plagued with gun violence, calling on city officials to do more.
I want them to pay more attention to our neighborhoods.
We take the demand to both the police chief and acting mayor of Annapolis. We play them the sound of that gunfire.
Yeah, it sounds like a war zone.
It's trauma on top of trauma, and we're sick and tired of this.
We ask what they're going to do about it. They point to an existing crime plan, but say it may need adjustment.
And part of that are our officers getting out of their cars and engaging with the public. That is strategic. That must be done immediately.
The victim's husband says simply, police need to be here and they need to be visible.
I've been with my wife 30 years, man. That's all I got besides my 8 kids and 10 grandkids. Without them, I'm nothing, so you're gonna have to kill me too.
Now, the man's wife is a longtime City of Annapolis employee. We're told that she's listed as stable and is expected to recover. No arrests have been made, but police are telling us that that barrage of gunfire you heard was the continuation of an earlier targeted shooting. In Annapolis, Brad Bell, Fox 45 News.
In Washington, D.C., a former Morgan State basketball player was killed in a nightclub shooting. 31-year-old Blake Bozeman played basketball for 4 years at Morgan State. Last night, he was one of 4 people shot at Crew nightclub. 3 other victims were treated for non-life-threatening injuries. The suspect in that shooting is still on the loose tonight. Anyone with information should contact D.C. police. On Wednesday, a city council committee will meet for a hearing on the Brooklyn Day mass shooting. This is the 3rd time the committee will meet about the incident to press the police department, housing authority, and mayor's office of neighborhood safety and engagement about the failures that led up to the shooting. Well, the second hearing was held earlier this month. It ended early after emotional testimony from the mother of Aaliyah Gonzalez, one of the 2 people killed on July 2nd.
I know you said we're guests of honor, knowing that Foxtrot will tell you as they look down from hundreds of feet in the air that everything looks normal. What's your normal? I challenge you, what is your normal? Let them take each other out. Is that your normal?
Meantime, during that hearing, we only heard from the police department, not Monzi or the housing authority. Now, there are questions from them that we still want answered, including why Safe Streets workers who knew about the Brooklyn Day party didn't tell police, and what happened during the mediations that Monzi leaders say Safe Streets workers performed before the shooting happened.
Today, more reaction to a Project Baltimore investigation which found only 11% of the students at the best public high schools in Baltimore City are proficient in math.
That stunning finding is not surprising to one family. Their daughter, an honor student in city schools, was simply not prepared for college. Desmond Stinney's daughter graduated from Poly in 2020. Poly is one of the city's highest performing high schools. The honor student was accepted into one of the military academies, but Stinney said when she arrived, she wasn't prepared academically, especially in math, and nearly flunked out.
The test scores are absolutely revealing the shortcomings of the classroom instruction. We're setting them up to fail.
Well, these are the top 5 high schools in Baltimore in terms of math proficiencies. Coming up tonight at 10 o'clock, Fox 45 News will show you how each of these schools performed on the math tests. 3 of these schools have math proficiencies under 10%. Project Baltimore also reported there are 13 city high schools with 0 students who took the state exams this past spring, and proficient in math. And that leads us to our question of the day. Do you trust the state school board to take the appropriate action to improve public education? You can vote at foxbaltimore.com.
Well, a handful of college campuses are bringing back mandates or keeping COVID mandates, leaving some students frustrated. The National Desk's Angela Brown explains.
Let's start with the University of Michigan. U of M releasing this guidance for students who test positive for COVID, urging students to make an isolation plan that includes leaving the dorm and going to their permanent home or even a hotel. That plan getting criticism. An official with the Mackinac Center for Public Policy quoted in Michigan Capitol Confidential saying, "These new rules are empty gestures because they are impossible to enforce." Other universities like Rutgers are keeping their COVID vaccine requirement in place. We talked to Jeremy Lee from Campus Reform and a student at Rutgers.
Right now, with the way schools are enforcing vaccine mandates and how a lot of schools are even considering things like mask mandates again, it's really disappointing to see that people are still trying to enforce these draconian measures.
Back in August, Morris Brown College in Atlanta announced on Instagram that it was issuing a mask mandate following an increase in COVID cases. That mandate was scheduled to last 14 days. Overall, the majority of colleges and universities have not brought back mask mandates. In Washington, D.C., I'm Angela Brown.
Starting today, you can order 4 free COVID-19 tests from the government. The Biden administration's at-home testing program is officially relaunching. The tests are free, and so is shipping, which starts next week. Every household can order 4 COVID tests through covidtest.gov.
Well, taking live to the White House, where officials are voicing support for striking auto workers ahead of President Biden's visit to Michigan tomorrow. President Biden is expected to walk the picket line with members of the United Auto Workers Union. It comes as the strike enters its second week. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre emphasizes the president stands with auto workers. Still, the White House is declining to weigh in on any details of the negotiations.
They deserve a fair share of the value that they helped create. That's what the president is saying. But the details, the specifics of what that looks like, what makes both sides happy or anything in those at the negotiation table, that is for them to decide.
Former President